Hello and welcome to the American Man podcast. This is part three of the education series that I'm doing. And this is the final episode of that series. So I want to, clarify first that I don't believe that being educated is wrong. And I don't think that being unintelligent is something that is desirable. I just believe that we as a country put the wrong emphasis on how to become educated through schooling, and that our school process is less than ideal. So, the more education that I've received through schooling, the less respect I've gained for the current schooling process that we have. So, what's my personal experience? Um, so, I was homeschooled until seventh grade. My dad was a public school teacher. He was a high school teacher. So it's not like we had anything morally opposed to the public high school system. But I think my dad would have been the first person to tell you that there were a lot of flaws in that system. And I think the flaws that he was starting to see right before he retired have gotten more and more uh, prevalent in our school system today. And I think there is way too much pressure, not only on continuing, school at a high school level, et cetera, but also at the college level and you know post post undergraduate level. So what do I mean by that? I think that schooling, at its best, provides only a foundation for one's education. I think the real learning comes from doing. I think the real learning comes from hands on experience, at least learning that is practical and applicable in most people's lives. So we can sit around and argue about what is the best form of education, what education systems should we have in place. Um, the libertarian in me wants to say, there's as little government involvement in education is a good thing. And to an extent, I think that plays out when you look at the more government control we have in our education systems, the less control that individual teachers have to tailor their lessons and methods to the students in their individual classes. When we get things like Common Core, like No Child Left Behind, what we end up with is a one size fits all system that really ends up leaving more people behind or holding back individuals who could be advancing much more quickly. Um, the joke when I was in school, when No Child Left Behind came out, was really what it's doing is it's pulling back the more capable students to hold them on par. It's not leaving anyone behind. It's pulling others back to meet that sort of designation or whatever the goal was for a certain level of education across the board. How we measure success in our education system through standardized testing, things like that. That's not going to get you anywhere in life. I would take someone who tests poorly but is a hard worker and wants to learn over anyone who can do standardized testing any day. Um, and we're starting to see some of that in college admissions. They're looking less and less at standardized testing, which I think is a good thing, but I don't know if they're doing it for the right reasons, particularly. But here's my pitch for homeschooling or alternative schooling. The way I see most um, high school teachers nowadays, middle school, elementary school, high school teachers, they fall into one of sort of three categories because the pay is not good, right? So the only benefit really is a whole summer off. So you have the people who are really just looking for what they think is an easy job with summers off. Um, you have people who uh, are truly believe in what they're doing, what they're teaching, and are trying to teach to the best of their ability while being constrained by the system. And you have ideologues, people who believe that it's worth taking a lesser salary in exchange for the ability to shape and mold young minds to believe in whatever it is that they believe in. So two out of those three are bad. I would not want my child to be taught by an ideologue or a teacher who's only there because they get the summer off. Um, I have had all three of these teachers. So 30% chance of having just a good teacher, I don't like those odds. So that's the primary reason why I think our public school system is generally undesirable. Um, you're also giving up so much control over what your children are learning and prioritizing, not just from the teacher's sake, but from the peers. Keep in mind that they're around these other children 8 hours a day then, and you have zero control over who they talk to, who they make friends with, who they share anything with, who they share information with. You see bullying, you see online harassment, you see all sorts of things being shared between children, and really the only way to protect them from that is to pull them out of that setting. So that's another big pitch for some sort of alternative school. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other forms of school. It certainly does, but you have at least a little more control. There are so many types of education out there that don't involve public school. Now, is private school possible for everyone? No, it's not. It's expensive. It costs a lot of money. You might be a single parent. You might be, not be able to afford it. Hopefully, you live in a state that subsidizes that. Um, but if not, maybe consider moving to a state where your child's education can be more ideal. I don't think it is out of the realm of reasonableness to say that your child's education is one of the most important decisions you will ever make in your life. And it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, just move, because I've moved around the country a bunch. It doesn't really bother me. I understand a lot of people are tied to where they are. You've got family, you've got other considerations, but this is your children's future that we're talking about, and I take this very seriously. So obviously, I recognize that it's not possible for everyone to homeschool, um, or to find a viable um, private school. Where I grew up, there were no private schools. I don't know where is probably an hour and a half away to get to a private school. I don't know where it would have been. Um, so yes, there are times when it's not viable, but if you can afford for one parent to work and the other to stay at home and raise your children, I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt that I was closer with my family. I was closer with my brother. I felt more secure, uh, loved, and when I did get to a public education setting starting in seventh grade, I was not burnt out the way the vast majority of my peers were. I was still excited to learn. I hadn't been, stuck in a box for, 7 years already. There was an excitement to it, and that certainly carried through. Now, statistics are showing, very strong correlation between homeschooling and success in, later on in life. Now, a lot of that can be attributed to the type of person, the type of parents who homeschool, right? The type of parents who homeschool are typically more involved in their children's lives. They care more. Um, the same correlation goes with children who go to public school. However, there's a strong correlation between the financial ability to go to private school and sort of that level of financial ability leading to children's success as well. So um, uh, when you control for sort of family involvement and um, financial abilities and things like that. It's not as stark as you might think, as some proponents of homeschooling and alternative schooling argue. But I still think that there is a clear difference between those going to homeschool, homeschooling, and those who go to you know private school, public school, all the different alternatives. Um, with private schooling or with homeschooling, you can tailor an education to your child's specific needs. There are so many different kinds of private schools. There are Montessori schools, there are Christian schools, there are charter schools. There are all sorts of different things that will more align with how your child needs to learn and how they excel in learning. If you are homeschooling your children, a lot of parents choose to go with curriculum. My family growing up, we really didn't. We, at most, we did a math lesson every day, and then we read something, whatever, anything, history, science. We did reading. We read a lot of books. Um, and you would think that going into public school then would have been shock and that I would have been behind. At the end of the day, I was advanced for my class. I'm not saying that to brag. It's just that there was not a measurable lack of understanding of the subject matters, even though I didn't study it routinely, um, in a curriculum formalized manner when I was homeschooled. So I think that we certainly put too much pressure on children to go to uh, you know post-secondary education. I felt like after high school that I would be a disappointment if I didn't go to college, based on my test scores and things like that. Um, I really would have enjoyed going to law enforcement or even military. Those are things that I really wanted to and was interested in, but I never even talked to anyone. I didn't tell anyone that because I was concerned about what they would say. I was worried that they would, just shoot that down, and say, no, 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 you're too smart for that. You can't just waste yourself on that. We need to stop measuring success by scholastic achievement. We need to stop measuring success by earnings potential. We need to stop measuring success by what kind of job you have in society. Success is finding happiness and joy in your family, in your friends. To me, success is following a godly life, following a Christian life. Um, but it's certainly not how much money do you make. And that was the impression that I got coming out of school from guidance counselors, from family members, and I regret that. I certainly wouldn't change anything because it's brought me to where I am today. And I feel blessed that I am where I am, that I can do the things that I can because of my education. Um, but I certainly believe that how I got here um, was the wrong way about it, and that it shouldn't be pushed on, um, 17, 18-year-old kids now, saying, "Oh, you need to go to college. You need to go to college." I know a lot of kids who went to college after high school, lasted 2 years, dropped out, had thousands of dollars in student debts, and they had half of an education degree, or half of a communications degree, or half of a social studies degree, or whatever it was. Um, it's not financially viable for them. College is so expensive now. It's subsidized by the government. So when there's and that's another argument for another day, but the amount of loans and things like that available means that colleges can increase prices, which they routinely do. And so you end up in thousands of dollars of debt, and with, a job that doesn't really match that level of indebtedness, and really wasn't worth it. So I, encourage you, if you're listening to this, if you have young children, um, you know, see if there's some way that you could manage to homeschool, or see if there's some way that you can manage to get your kids into a private school of some sort. Or if not, if they're in public school, make a point to be more engaged in their school. Go to the parent teacher conferences, be involved in their classroom as much as you can. and talk about them every day. Talk with them every day about what they learned, what they did, who they talked to, things like that, and try to um, help them to learn in a way that best matches them. And please, don't pressure them to do higher education or things like that. um, Try to help them find those things that they excel in naturally, and then focus on those things, because more schooling does not necessarily mean more education. I know a lot of people who are incredibly intelligent people who are not schooled, so to speak. um, so that is my hope. That is my encouragement. I think our education system is broken. I think it is far too standardized, and I wish we would go back to a time where teachers were allowed to just teach, um, and that we set our students up for a better chance at learning in a way that benefits them, in a career that benefits them.